Welcome back. We're here to talk about Saturday's Premier League match between Manchester United and Norwich. Pascal, only one place to start really, that's with United defeated Bournemouth last time out.
Yeah, it was a really bad week for the club, wasn't it? West Ham 0-0 at home and then going out of the Champions League to Wolfsburg into the Europa League and then you go to Bournemouth, one of the sides down there at the bottom. I know they did win at Stamford Bridge the week before, but to go there and lose 2-1, very disappointing. And it's the manner of the way they conceded the goals. The first one very early on in the game. They did have a makeshift defence out. They've got so many players injured: Shaw, Rojo, Smalling, Darmian, all missing from that one. They did. Their defence was Varela, McNair, Blind, Borthwick, Jackson. Really makeshift defence. But then the one guy you think would be really solid at the back is De Gea, and he then makes a mistake for the first goal. Very windy down there on the south coast, and it did swing in obviously, but you can't get beaten like that as a keeper from a corner kick. It's just that simply can't happen. They get back in it through. Fellaini, that was an ugly goal, wasn't it? He stumbled in there and somehow managed to turn it home. And then the second half, Bournemouth are quite good. Another set piece for their second goal, really well worked one with Josh King coming in and finishing that neatly. But to concede, both goals there from set pieces. They conceded goals from set pieces in the Wolfsburg game as well, and you just wonder what's going on there really, because it had been boring football, in the sort of last 2 months before this, bad week, but at least they were, eking out games and, not losing them. But now they are losing them, conceding goals as well. And you look at the table, 6 points behind the leaders now, because that's the thing, even though they weren't playing great football, they were still right there in the title race. They were very, very close, but now 6 points behind Leicester, 3 off City, and, they only got Spurs 3 points behind them. And, you probably would have expected Spurs to close the gap, but they lost to Newcastle and other teams below them losing, so they could maybe say that they're getting a bit lucky with others losing, but the way they're playing at the moment, you can't really see them mounting a charge for the title.
And you mentioned those goals conceded from set pieces there. That's so unlike what United have been for the whole season before these last two games against Wolfsburg and Bournemouth. They had kept 8 clean sheets in their 11 games prior to that, so to concede 5 in the last 2, I think there's been maybe a change of style. There's certainly been more exciting games, both of them, although on both occasions I think they've sort of been dragged into the other team's style rather than playing their own in that. Wolfsburg, obviously, they needed to go for the victory there, which would have played a part, but Bournemouth, I think they got a bit caught up in the atmosphere there on the south coast. It was absolutely rocking at Dean Court, so I think they didn't play their own game in that. They didn't really get it under wraps. They didn't have Schweinsteiger there to control the midfield, and I've been quite critical of Schweinsteiger this season. I think he plays it too slow, too many sideways passes, and probably the main protagonist, the boring football United have been playing. But they could have done with a player like him just to calm things down after that early goal against Bournemouth. So obviously such a freak goal, and they came back. They could have equalised straight away. Borch made that incredible double save, didn't they? Fantastic goalkeeping from him, and they deserved their equaliser in the end, but they didn't deserve anything more than at very most a point in that game. And questions have got to come against Van Gaal now, I think. Is there any progress under him so far? Obviously out of the Champions League, no progress on that front. Even Moyes got to the quarter-finals. In the league, if he secures another top four spot, you'd say that maybe was progress from the Moyes era. But look how much he spent. It's over £250 million. He needs to be doing better than that. I know he's got a lengthy injury list. As many as 10 first-teamers could be out for this game. So that's obviously tough to deal with. But still, spending that much money, you'd think they'd have a bit more depth than to come up with that defence they've come up with. So they're winless in 5 games in all competitions now. So as you were saying, the results earlier in the season, it wasn't pretty, but they were eking out results. That's stopped now. It's bad results. They're boring football. They haven't gone 6 without a win since 2007. So you're going back 8 years there for the last time United won this poor run. So something has to change, and if Van Gaal doesn't start getting the results soon, I think he'll come under a lot of pressure.
Yeah, definitely. And I think obviously this game is a really good chance against Norwich at Old Trafford, because the thing is, at Old Trafford they've been pretty good. You were talking about the clean sheets. They've kept 6 consecutive clean sheets at home dating back to September. Only conceded 3 in 13 this season. So at home, the fans haven't been too impressed. There haven't been many like 3-4-0 wins or 4-1, 5-1, anything like that. But they have been fairly solid there. They're the only unbeaten team at home in the Premier League. Only conceded 1 goal at Old Trafford in the Premier League. That was against Liverpool a few months back. So they have been solid. Norwich, not one of the best teams. They'll certainly fancy their chances here. And I think it'll be interesting to see how they treat the Europa League now that they've been demoted. That they've got Midtjylland, the Danish team there, which is a good draw for them, really. I know they beat Southampton way back in the qualifiers at the start of the season, but it's a good draw for them. But it's whether they think, if they think they can still win the league, maybe once they get a few players back fit, are they going to treat the Europa League as just a side competition, or are they going to treat it as importantly as the Premier League? Because it would still be good to have obviously a run in Europe there, but we know that the Thursday night games, they do tend to have a more detrimental effect than the Tuesday, Wednesday Champions League ones. So interesting to see how they take it, but it was a decent draw for them.
And obviously Europa League, if they win that, they do get in the Champions League. I think Van Gaal, he's won it before in his time at Ajax, I think it was. So I think he will take it fairly seriously. So It might derail their title bid, but at the same time, it's a tournament. I think Van Gaal will go into it wanting to win. But looking ahead to this weekend, they'll certainly be favourites despite that defeat against Bournemouth, against the Norwich side, who themselves, they got a good point last time out against Everton. Quite how they got that point, I'm not sure. They should have been dead and buried by half time in that game, which could have been 4-5 to Everton quite easily. There was one-way traffic, absolutely dominant. Norwich fans booed them off at half-time, and rightly so, because it was a dreadful first-half performance. But whatever Alex Neil said at half-time, it seemed to work. They got a goal back within a couple of minutes. Houlihan, quite a scrappy goal, but a goal nonetheless. They'll certainly take that to get back into it. And you thought when they were going in at half-time, Everton needed to get that second goal. Otherwise, Norwich, they're always going to be in the game until that. And to get a goal so early in the first half, in the second half, got the fans back on side after they were so disgruntled at half time. And then in the end, they perhaps should have won it with that Cameron Jerome chance. He certainly should have scored that. As I mentioned, they should have been out of the game before that. But having held on and then equalised, they should have won it in the end with that Jerome chance. Great chance. Not quite sure how he missed that one. But a point is good. They're dropped into the relegation zone with Newcastle and Bournemouth again getting surprise victories, so that will be a bit of a blow, but it is probably more than they're expecting and more than they probably deserved from that match.
Yeah, they've had some quite impressive results, haven't they? They've held both Everton and Arsenal at Carrow Road, so they've been decent results, but in terms of wins, it's just one win in their last 11 and none of the last 4, and you look at the wins they've actually had this season, Bournemouth, Swansea and Sunderland, all teams right down there at the bottom with them, so you wouldn't really give them much of a chance of winning at Old Trafford, but you look at especially away from home as well. Villa, Sunderland, they're the only teams with fewer away points, and Norwich have won just one of their last 19 Premier League away games, losing 13 of those. They lost 4 in a row away from home. So decent results, being able to hold Arsenal and Everton at Carrow Road, but not picking up any points away from home in recent weeks. And you just can't really see that changing here. They've put in some good performances, but like you said, on another day, Everton would have been way clear in that game had they just taken some of their chances in the first half. And they're going to be hard pressed to get anything from this game.
Yeah, they've lost 11 of the last 14 in the Premier League against Manchester United, so do you see them getting anything?
I don't, to be honest. I think United, it won't be a virtuoso display, like we've said. They've still got a lot of key players out injured, but they should at Old Trafford. I think the crowd will definitely try to get behind them. There was a really tough week last week, and they will have had a week off this week. A bit more rest, and they should come through this 2-0. I think.
Yeah, I agree with the United victory. Obviously, as I mentioned, recently defence has been a bit poor, but Norwich haven't exactly been pulling up any trees up front themselves, so I can see them keeping a clean sheet as well, but just about a 1-0 victory, I think. So both going for Manchester United wins here. Thanks for joining us.